Greetings! In today's video, I will be opening up this really cute parcel from ArtsyOubliette's. They can be found on Etsy. I'll have a link to their shop in the description if you want to check it out. I was made aware of this specific artisan paint maker through my friend Elodie, who tried their paints and really liked them. And we had a meetup, she brought them along and I got to try them and I was like, oh, this is lovely. I really like these. So I went ahead and checked it out. Of course, the packaging was really cute before I opened it, just to make sure. I wanted to count how many paints were in there so that I could prepare swatches and all that, but it was really nicely packaged and much cuter than you saw at first. Now, I know there's a bunch of stuff in there. All right, let's go through this. So amongst the really fun extras that I was sent along with the paints, I got 2 tea packets, 2 chocolates. I got a super cute owl clip, and then a bunch of stickers. Oh, and a button. One thing that I can tell you right away is that these are made with clove, so they have a clove scent to them. If you're super sensitive to scents and smells, perhaps that's something to keep in mind. And now this is the very impressive selection of color in there. Now they traveled mostly fine, but I'm still gonna have to, you know, get some bits to stick to their pans a bit better with water, set it all up. I'll check out the colors. If I remember right, I think these have a code underneath them. Like this one is 1044, so I can take this code and check it against this very handy chart that came with the set. Said 1044. So here it's snail shell disco. I'll get these sorted out and then I'll swatch them and I'll be able to show you guys how magical these colors are. And I'm back with my palettes, my swatches, my demo painting. We'll take a look at all of that, starting with the palette. So what I ended up doing is I had this plastic box from a pen that I had bought, and I really wanted to put these paints not in a metal tray because they are generous and overflowing, and I felt like if I put them in a metal tray, the clip would get in the way and then it would rust and it would be a nightmare, and I hate that. So yeah, I used blue tack under the pans and stuck them in there, and so far it's been working really well. So no complaints. I also quickly painted just this really quick chart so that I can have it either on top or I can possibly put it in there if the paints are dry. It's also worth noting that I added 2 other pans in there. These are gifts from my friend Elodie. So instead of having these with something else, I wanted all my ArtsyOubliette's paints together. But these didn't come with my order. These were from my friend. Overall, it makes for a really interesting palette, and the color of the pan doesn't necessarily showcase the color of the paint itself all that well. So we will go from this to the swatches. All right, so again, I did a bunch of different things, starting with large swatches. I know my special effect paints, I know they like to have a bit more room to do their magic, so I split this page into 14 swatches that were a bit larger and that would give me more room to see the effect of the paints. If you see some darker lines around my swatches, this is just from setting the page up, and it's graphite and it just doesn't erase all that well. I've labeled the paints with their numbers on this specific chart. I've also added my 2 extra colors. This paper here that I'm using as a page protector of sort is basically the really long list of all the colors that ArtsyOubliette's has made. So that's a really efficient system in my opinion. The only one that didn't have any kind of info was the gold. So for that one, I mean, it's a beautiful warm gold, so no complaints, but I hope you can see just how beautiful these are. the kind of effect you can get, and the texture and the separation and all the colors in there are really, really striking. So that was the first thing I painted, and I was like, oh, this is really fun. I really like this. So I then painted the other side here. So I did these little swatches. These are just the paints that I got from ArtsyOubliette's, not including the gifts. And I painted this, and again, I used this color selection. I looked at it before doing my drawing, and I was like, what does these all inspire me? And I was looking at it, I was like, oh, you know what? I feel like it would be great colors for like weird plants and, you know, magical plants and whatnot, and stuff that's all weird and unusual. So I came up with that little scene. Now, for these paints, I don't really have the pigment info. It doesn't come with the paints. It's not on the chart. Keep in mind that these might not come with any pigment info if ArtsyOubliette doesn't want to share that information. So the colors I have here, we have Dragon Egg second version. We have Spring Duets Orange and Spring Duets Dark Emerald. And when you mix them together, you can get some really fun effect. Then I have Green Rust, Dark Violin Wood, Old Fire, Snail Shell Disco, The Princess, Harpsichord 3, Fire Nova, Oud, Special Kind of Plum, Messy Lila, and a beautiful gold color. The two colors that were a gift from Elodie are Ratty Orange 2 and Blue Blood. So that's my selection of colors from this particular maker. It is a very particular palette, and perhaps using them all, because I've managed to fit every color in there in some way, in some capacity. But I'm not saying that's the best idea. Perhaps a painting would benefit more from having a few special paints and then stuff that's a bit more basic so that the special paints really stand out. I think if I had to pick a favorite in this selection, I think Dragon Egg would be my favorite. I feel like it's such a fun color and it's so bright and has a beautiful texture at the same time, so I think that's really fun. Now, it's worth noting that the Princess color has a green shimmer to it, which makes for a really interesting effect. I've used it here, so. And I added some gold at the end for a couple of details. And overall, this was a lot of fun to paint. The sky here is basically just a flat layer of color, but the way it moved and separated in the water was really, really fun and made for a beautiful texture. These colors are a lot of fun to paint with. I had a great time. I also want to feature a couple of things. So first of all, it's just a little note, and I will go to these for that. But if you want to paint with these colors, just keep in mind that they can rub off a bit. So if you, not this one, but this one, the orange has a tiny bit of rub off. So depending on the color, and I know some pigments are more difficult than other, but you can end up with a bit of pigment that, you know, rubs off. So be mindful of that if you like to paint all the pages of your sketchbooks like I do. This is why I included this page as a sort of protector buffer, so that this batch of paint won't rub on this other page of paints and make a mess. Also, like I mentioned, these have a really pleasant, in my opinion, scent of clove. But I know some people might be sensitive to that, so that's something to keep in mind as well. And lastly, the third little mention, and in my opinion the coolest one, check out this page under UV light. How cool is that? I think that's so much fun. So if you look at the colors here, some of them have neon pigments in varying degrees. Some don't, but some do, and it can make for another really interesting piece that you can have on your wall that looks one way during the day, and then at night, when you put on the lights and you set it up so you have a UV light nearby, well, this happens. And it's like a brand new painting, and I feel like this makes my whole idea of weird toxic plants even more fun, because they look so cool under UV light. They look even better. That's a kind of bonus feature that I thought was really interesting. And you can see it here too. See, there's some neon dust over this one. So you can do some really fun things with paints like this. Some might be concerned that neon pigments are not light fast. If that's something that really bothers you, then, I mean, just don't get any paints with neon pigments in them. But if that's something that you like and you appreciate the kind of glow it brings to a painting, this is definitely worth looking at. I had so much fun painting with these, and they make for such beautiful effect. And I also saw my friend Elodie paint with these, and she painted such beautiful things. Like, she paints in a different way than I do, and it was amazing to see the colors sort of come alive under her brush. I'll leave a link to her Instagram in the description. Hopefully she has some paintings featuring these. And I mean, if not, go look at her beautiful art anyway. She's a really good painter, and she does illustration work as well. So that's my look through and painting and swatching of these paints from ArtsyOubliette. I really enjoy artisan paints. I think they are so much fun, and they can bring about so much creativity, both from the maker and then the painter with the paints. Like, what would you do with these colors? And I would love to know, what would you paint with these colors? Please let me know in the comments below. That would be really fun. And I'll have links to ArtsyOubliette's shop in the description as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see each other in the next video. So thank you for watching, and bye bye.